Hey guys, today I really want to talk about a very controversial topic. I'm sure a lot of you will disagree with me on what I'm about to dive into. But I want to pose a question to you to open up this conversation. Do you stay in a loveless marriage that isn't right for you just because you have children? It's not an easy question to answer. It's a very hard thing to fathom when you're in a marriage, the idea of having to leave it because it's not right for you or for your children. But I've lived it. And I wanted to really talk about this topic today because I feel like it is very controversial and there's so many ways of looking at it, right? There's not two situations are the same. Some people leave due to infidelity. Others may leave due to, as a lot of people say, we grew apart, however that looks for that specific couple. Some people get divorced because of abuse, whether that be financial abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, and mental abuse. But do you stay in these high conflict, toxic marriages just because you have children with this person? Obviously, I left my marriage and I dealt with the judgment. But one of the things that I've learned through all of this is something that I think a lot of people don't take into consideration when making this decision is fear. Fear holds us back from making the right choice. They always say, and it sounds cliche, but it is true, sometimes the hardest choices are the best. And I believe the choice that I made was the best outcome for my future, my daughter's future, and even my ex-husband's future. People fear the unknown. They fear the holidays where they don't have their children with them. As a mother who loves my daughter more than anything, I understand that. Fear was something that definitely hit me the minute I filed for divorce. The fear of the unknown, the fear of what's my new norm going to look like? Living by myself, how does that look? Financially, what does that look like for me? And then living with the idea of not knowing how it would affect my daughter long term. I think a lot of people stay in loveless marriages or in marriages that aren't good for them because they are fearful. They're fearful of disappointing family, possibly. They might be going against religious beliefs. Or they may be staying for the financials. And my opinion on this is the two F's, fear and financials. But should we allow financials and fear to be the reasons why we don't live in authenticity? Why we don't nurture the idea of happiness? I feel like happiness has gone out the window. And I'm a big believer, and I will always say that if you can't be happy as a mother or as a father, if you're a divorced man watching this episode, if you aren't happy with yourself, if you can't provide a mentally and emotionally stable parent to those children because you're living in a marriage that is dysfunctional, you're living in a marriage where you're fighting in front of your children, you're living in a high conflict environment, those children see and feel, because children are very intuitive, what is really going on. And as they get older, they really realize what's going on. Something that stuck with me for a very long time was when a very close family member of mine found out that I was leaving my marriage and had filed for divorce when my daughter was, like I always say, 12 months old. I broke down crying to this person and I said, I don't know if I'm making the right choice. I just know that I can't keep living this life. I know that everybody deserves better. than what is going on right now. I got to a place where I felt like an empty shell of a person. I was not myself, and everybody around me noticed it, and everybody around me would point it out to me. And I said to this specific family member, how do I know that I'm making the right choice for my daughter? How do I know? How do I know I'm not failing her? And this family member said to me, you're making the right choice because this is something I've never told you, but when I was younger, my mother would always say to me, you're the only reason why I stay with your father. Like, what a burden for a child to hold. That's not a child's responsibility to feel like they're the glue that's keeping a family together. Children aren't born with jobs. They're not supposed to be placed in this world for us to put our burdens because we aren't strong enough to make the choice to leave. By telling that child that you're only with them, their parent, whether it be the mother or the father, because of them. And this family member said to me, your daughter's never going to have to hear that. And that is something that has stuck with me all these years. All these years that it has stuck with me. I knew my parents weren't happy. I knew my parents were in a loveless marriage. I knew they were resentful and had so much anger towards one another. But my mother used to always say to me, I'm only with your father because of you. And this is a conversation with this specific family member that has really stuck with me. And anytime I felt weakness about my decision, anytime I felt failure about my decision, or, anger, resentment, and guilt. And when I say guilt, let me be very clear. My therapist said it really well. She said, Lauren, why are you feeling guilt? Guilt is a feeling you only should feel if you've done something wrong. Intentionally have done something wrong. Then feel guilt. But you have not done anything intentionally wrong. Maybe you feel sadness, deep sadness, because you're not able to give your daughter the image in your mind of what you thought your life was going to end up like. And that's exactly what it is. I felt deep sadness. And to any woman out there listening to this that had to make the tough decision like I did to be the one to file and leave, whether it be your children are old enough to understand what divorce looks like and what it is, or they were young like mine and had no idea, you feel immense sadness for being the person that, quote unquote, broke the family up. But was it a healthy family? You can have a healthy environment for your children after divorce. You can provide that child with stability after divorce. Some divorces are amicable, others are not. Best outcome is that it is amicable. But when someone doesn't have an amicable divorce, then they even have to work harder at getting themselves right and getting their emotions in check, working on themselves as a parent, and placing themselves in a healthy mental space so that they can provide that child what they weren't able to provide that child during the marriage. And to this day, I know that a lot of people are judgmental of divorce, and I find it to be very interesting how divorce is still looked at as being a negative experience or it being the easy way out. People think divorce is the easy choice, that's you gave up, you left, you gave up, you didn't work for it. Do you really know what anybody does prior to their divorce? Do they talk about it? No, it's private. Do you know the amount of sit-down conversations that those couples maybe had at a dinner table trying to work through their stuff? No, because you weren't there. The endless hours spent in a therapist's office to try to get things to work for the sake of the family, you don't know that. You don't know if they've tried working on it or not. All you hear is this person's leaving and they're getting a divorce. I don't shy away from talking about topics that are controversial. I am very much a big proponent of living your authentic life. And I'm, believe it or not, very thankful for my experience and what I've gone through in my own personal journey. I wouldn't change it for anything in the world.